Hi, this is Shauna with New to the Country Life, and this is continuing working on our chess pieces that we demolded earlier today. That video is already up, so go check it out. We have full chess pieces, and then we have some halves that we're going to clean and glue together. I'm going to push my camera back a little bit, hopefully, so you can see a little better. Hopefully that's better. So for the most part, most of these don't need clean. We're going to start with some of these halves and show you how to do them. What I do is I have a look at it and I see if there's anything around the edges that needs cleaned off, and if not, then I just lay them down. Okay, so this one needs this top cleaned a little bit. I use a sharp X-Acto knife, and we just go in, and my resin is still fairly soft. These came out earlier today, and I just cut away what I don't want. And all I'm trying to do is just clean it up a bit, so there's no pokey edges, so that when they go together, they fit nicely. And you can see I checked the bottoms. There's nothing sticking up on the bottom. It doesn't appear there's going to be a problem with that piece. So I just kind of hold them together. They fit together with no gap. They're not too fat or anything. The glue that I prefer to use is this Gorilla Super Glue, and I prefer it because it has a brush in it. You can take the top off and you still can do drops, but for this application, that brush is very helpful. So we'll just set it down here and we'll glue two pieces together. And what I do is I just apply it, a thin coat all across one of the pieces. And I make sure I get the little top cross on this particular piece. And then I push the two sides together. And it doesn't grab like immediately, so you have time to, wiggle them together. And then I just put pressure on it so the two pieces adhere to each other. And if you happen to get any on it like I just did here, that cleans off easily afterwards. And then if it makes it where it's not shiny anymore, I have a resin spray. I'll put a link to that in the description. You can just coat it with a coat of spray and it makes it shiny as new. And to finish them off, I use these little dots. I buy these dots on Amazon. I put a link to them, and they come in different sizes. So I believe these are 1 inch, and they fit some of the pieces. These are 3/4, and then I have some little 1/2 inch guys. And these little 1/2 inch guys fit these perfect. They're just a little smaller, but I like to put them on right after I glue it. And I just center them like that, and that makes it when they sit on the chessboard, they don't scratch anything. And it adds a little weight to the bottom of that set. So I'm going to clean a couple of these and start to put them together, and then we'll switch to the bigger set and I'll show you how to do those. I'm going to find one that needs sanded down so you can see how that works. I was careful to pour most of these so that they don't have a belly in them. So I'm having to look for one. Hang on. Okay, so here you can see this one is really flat, but this one has a little bit of a belly right here. So it's causing them, when you put them together, to have a gap. And we don't want that gap. So what I do is I have some 180 grit sandpaper. I lay it on my table. I put my piece on it, and I just kind of try to grab it so I keep the pressure even on the whole thing. And I just sand it down. And you can see on the back where that belly was, and this is the flat down here. So I'm going to sand until I reach that, so I know that that's perfectly flat at that point. Sorry for the shaking camera, my whole table shakes. Okay, so we've got a lot more of it down, but you can still see it's all around that edge there. Now you see why, excuse me, why it's good to get these in the mold as flat as possible so you don't have all this extra work. Okay, so you can see down here, we've reached, that's the right level there. I have a little bit more to go so that it's level all around these edges too. Okay, so let's try that. See how that works. Okay, so that's fitting together better now. There's still a little bit of a belly in there, so I'm going to do this piece and see how it is. And that one had a little bit of a belly there. Yeah, so that's much better. Now they fit together nicely. So I'm going to clean that sawdust or that sanding dust off of there because we don't want that on the piece. And I just kind of do that by rubbing it around in my hands and getting it off. And then as I look at these pieces, you can see right here around the edge, it needs trimmed. There's a little bit of, it's called flashing when it does that. So we're just going to take our sharp utility knife, carve some of that off to give it a nice crisp edge. And it's around the ears, so we're going to just trim that off. And again, these were taken out earlier today, so they're still fairly soft. They're not hard yet. They haven't had time to cure. They take, you know, a few days to cure properly. Okay, so that one's all cleaned up. Now we'll do the other side. It has a lot more flashing. You can see right in this area. Hopefully you can see that right under the nose. So we just go in and we just carefully cut that out. And then we're going to just clean up that same ear places. And this is just from me over pouring it in the mold. If I'm careful and I keep it all down in the mold, you don't have to do any of this cleaning like that first piece that you've seen. So that's all cleaned up. And now we'll just glue those two pieces together. Apply that glue on there. And that glue actually sticks really well to the sanded portion. It gives it something better to grip on. We put the two pieces together and press them together so that they're solid. They do stick a little quicker when you've sanded that, just to be aware, because you've given it that glue a good place to hold on to on both sides. And then we're going to stick one of those dots on the bottom. Excuse me, I've got something in my throat tonight. And that makes just a nice finished looking piece. There's our horse head. Okay, so we have all that. We're going to go ahead and put together all the other pieces off camera. And I'll post them on my page on Facebook so you can see them when they're all finished. Let's tackle some of the bigger pieces. So this was done with what we call the clear mold. And those molds look like this. in the other video, there's links to the molds on how to pour these. So how to clean these. This one has a bubble right in the middle, and you want these pieces to set flat. So again, we go back to our 180 grit sandpaper, and we're just going to flatten that out. And I kind of just test it sitting on the table and make sure that it doesn't wobble or anything. It's wobbling a little bit, so we're just going to take a little more off. There, now that's sitting better. It's sitting flat. And then we're going to go around the edge and we're going to clean this and make sure that it's perfectly round. So we'll take our utility knife and we're just going to trim that off carefully. If you take too much and it dulls the finish, again, you can spray it with the resin spray when you're all done, and I'll put a link to that spray in the description. So now that has a nice edge on it. Now we're going to take some of our dots, and this is the 3/4 inch dot, and we just place it right over where we just sanded. You've got a nice smooth surface there now, and that dot sticks and makes a nice finished product. So that's how we do that. The other pieces in this set really do come out clean. You don't have to do anything to like the tops of this or anything like that. You just kind of go around the edges and make sure that there's nothing pokey on the bottom. You want it to feel nice when you're touching it. So you just kind of go around and, you know, make it feel nice. And these bigger pieces, there's a couple of the bigger pieces that take these bigger dots. The king and queen on these sets usually do. We just line that up, put it on, and press it on. That's another nice finished piece. Okay, now we're going to move on to this set. These were done with the pink molds that you see in the other video. And with this set, the bottoms don't always come out as nice as they do on that other set. They slant sometimes because the molds, that's just the way the molds are built. So I visually look and see, like this is nice gapping here, but this is a little more here. So I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to try to just clean that up and make it look more uniform so it's all the same height. And I may need to put it on the sandpaper depending on how it sits on the table when we're done. We just clean the edges up. You don't want anything to, you know, scratch your fingers when you're holding it. You want it to be a nice, smooth, touchable piece. Okay, then in this mold, a lot of the pieces get this extra flashing right in here. So we're going to come in and clean that up. And depending on what the piece is made out of, this is black mica. It will show a little bit more like white or gray. But if I spray it with matte finishing spray, it cleans it right back up and makes it nice and bright and shiny. So we're going to clean that on both sides. Just make it a nice soft piece. And then we're going to move up here to the top. So in this mold, this little cross at the top gets flashing underneath here. And you kind of just take your knife and, again, like we did on the horse, you just clean that out to try to give it a little more definition, so you can tell that it's a cross. And it pops off fairly easy. It's just it's something that has to be done with these molds. And there's a little dot on the top that is supposed to be there. I don't know if you can see that little tiny dot on there. It's supposed to be there, so don't cut it off. But just, you know, kind of go around and clean it up the best that you can. And then that makes a nice looking piece. Try it on the table. It sits nice and flat. It's not leaning any certain way. So we'll go ahead and pop a dot on the bottom of it. These are self-adhesive, pre-cut felt. You can also cut your own and glue them on. That's fine. I just prefer to buy them already done. And on these pieces, it leaves about a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. The base of these is slightly larger than the base of the other set. If I line up one side, you can see that's the size difference right in there. Hopefully you can see that. So the base is slightly smaller on the clear set as opposed to the paint mold set. But there's your two kings side by side so you can see. And I see something I missed and don't like right here as I turned it in the light. So that's why these sets are expensive, because I put a lot of work into making sure that they're as good as they can be. You know, they're not hand carved, they're mold. So you have to fix the mold imperfections. And the longer you have the mold, the more imperfections you're going to get, because your mold will start breaking down. And if you keep using it, then you're going to have little things like that that you have to cut off and fix. So anyway, there's the two kings from the two different sets side by side. Finished off with felt bottoms. Let's work on this king from the same set, opposite color. We're going to trim that bottom up. And it looks pretty good all the way around. It's just got a little extra flashing hanging off. So we're just going to trim that. Again, trim up underneath. I guess I'm kind of aggressive with it. Be careful with your knife. I've been using X-Acto knives for a long time, so I guess I get kind of aggressive with them. I say that because my husband says I scare him with them. And then clean up that cross area. Here's what I'm talking about with your mold. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little bit of pink in here. That pink is from the silicone from the mold. And it's where every time you use it, you're going to get some mold degradation. So eventually that mold will fall apart in that place. The more you use it, the more you lose it. Little pieces of it in there. So I'm just trimming that out right now. Hopefully you can see that pink right there. That's actually silicone from the mold right there. And we're just going to remove it. And we just know that eventually that mold's going to have to be replaced. So when I price my chest sets, things like molds are part of your consumables, believe it or not. Even though you can pour several times, they're not going to last you forever. So you are going to have to replace it. And if it's a popular item that you're going to continue to sell, then you need to build that into your pricing. Okay, so that's all cleaned up. It sits nice and flat on the table. It's not leaning anyway. So we'll go ahead and put a felt bottom on it and call that one good. And this is the king from the clear mold. So again, we're just gonna trim the bottom. We're going to check for flush. It sits nice. Wobbles a little bit on that side, so we're going to come back in and make sure we don't have glitter or anything, you know, sticking out that we don't want there. Now that's sitting nice and flat. Stick a bottom on it. And that's good. There's our piece. So there's all four of our kings right there. So that's kind of cool to see. These are the clear molds. These are the kings from the pink mold. And that's a king from the little half sets that you glue together. So just to give you an idea what they look like and how we do it, that's the way. If you have any questions about putting things together, finishing them off, anything like that, let me know. You can leave me a comment in the video, or you can find me on Facebook. And let me show you that spray real quick. This is the Resin Spray. It's a clear glass finish and it's a sealer. If you have something that's still slightly tacky and just hasn't dried all the way, you can seal it with this and that makes that tackiness go away. But it also brings back the brightness, the glossiness if you've handled something too much or it comes out of your mold not glossy and you want it to be. This is great spray for that. I'll put a link in the video to it. I'll put a link to the super glue that I like to use as well. And as far as sandpaper, any old sandpaper will work. What I'm using, I think I got it at Home Depot. But it's just 3M 180 grit fine sandpaper. So it's nothing special. And then I'll put a link to these felt pre-cut dots as well in the description. I use these for a lot of stuff. You can also put magnets on the bottom. I bought magnets in bulk and they're a stick-on too. And at some point I'll do a video to show you how to use metal powder in your chessboard so that you can put magnets on the bottom of your pieces if you want. They're not extremely strong, but they are magnetic, so it does help hold them on. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and keep watching for more videos, and leave me comments letting me know what else you want to know. I'll start doing other videos on other stuff if you want. I have tons of keychain molds and just lots of other molds and stuff, so if you have something that you're wanting to learn, if I don't have it and it's something that I can do, I'd be happy to get it and do videos for you.